So welcome back to our second episode. So today we are going to be talking our spiritual journey. So Sue, what is spirituality to you?
Well, Jules, that is a huge, big, open question, and my feelings and beliefs in spirituality has changed no end over my lifetime, which I think is how it should be. I think we should be evolving with our growth as we become more aware, more experienced. My feelings on spirituality is that I use it as like a map, a moral map of how to live my life. It brings me deeper meaning. It makes me make sense of tough situations. It gives me something to aspire to, and it brings me deep being more connected, closer to my true self, because through life we get pulled away from who we really are. And to me, the deeper meaning of spirituality is coming back to our original state, who we really are before life happens, before stuff happens, before conditioning happens. And I think it is a really good anchor to have in life when we're going through tough times. If we have a belief system, something that we can draw upon, it makes the passage of time, of journey of life, so much easier to bear. It also helps us to be quite humble human beings. It helps us to move past our trauma, to work through anger, unforgiveness, blocks to love, blocks to self, blocks to loving self, knowing who you really are, and to align you with the highest version of yourself so that you can live your fullest potential. That's my version of what spirituality is and what it means to me personally. I don't expect anybody else to have to jump on board with their belief systems being identical to mine. I think ours naturally would all be slightly different. But what is spirituality for you, Jules?
So exactly that. I think spirituality isn't a particular belief system. I believe it's a unique experience for everybody. And for me, spirituality is a place of becoming, and it's connecting to our own personal journey of our awakening and our connection to source. So I believe there's no wrong way or right way to connect with spirituality or what spirituality is. I believe it's a personal journey, and more to the point where it's not one particular belief system. So, what's right for one person, it might be something completely different for somebody else. So, but spirituality to me is a journey, an inward journey of an awakening, of becoming, and it is through our trials and sufferings where our spirituality take us. So, we can start off on one journey and it leads us somewhere completely different. So spirituality to me is it's a spiral, a constant of becoming. So it's helps us here on the earth plane as we're having our human experience. I do believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and so spirituality to me personally is a journey. It's a spiritual coming into reality. I believe the word ality is what becomes reality. So spirituality to me is what we bring into our reality. It's a place of becoming and connects us to our true, authentic version of us. It's a hard journey to begin with, but we do lengthen into that question in a moment. So our key awakening, and where did it start?
I often think about that, and I find it really hard to pinpoint. Looking back, I would say that I was very spiritual as a child, incredibly deep thinker, very curious, having moments of shock that I'm actually here on this planet as a child was quite a wake-up call of like, I'm really here this moment, this second, this time, and really passionate about understanding the deeper meaning, the deeper truth of everything, to the point I actually used to drive myself nuts. I think turning points were having understandings and beliefs that just seem to naturally be within me from birth, I'm guessing, and realizing that people around me didn't always understand that journey or share that same journey or see life from that kind of life worldview. So these were the points of beginning to realize, that cliche, I feel different, but I really did, and I still do, and I've learned to love it. I didn't always love that. As a child, that's quite unnerving. But my journey has been a very traumatic journey. As typically spiritual people who've been doing the spiritual journey for a long time have often incurred an awful lot of trauma. And I used the deep beliefs that I was developing naturally and spontaneously, and very blessed to have spirit guides working with me permanently. Wonderful spirit team, always in my ear, always nudging me to help me overcome very, very big events in my life that without spirituality, without having these belief systems, in truth, I'd be quite screwed right now. So spirituality, folks want to know what?
Absolutely.
It really does. So there's really is many points that probably started my journey from a little age, let's put it that way, but it was through those traumas that my belief system was harnessed, it was developed, it was broadened, it was broken open. And I find generally that the deeper the spiritual person, the more trauma they have been through, and that's the beauty of it. Spirituality helps you come through and make sense of what would be hard to endure or get through. And actually, when you come out the other side of that, you're a much better version of yourself, because true spirituality, in my mind, is about doing that deep healing. So there's been many journeys along this journey, and the journey is getting easier the deeper I've gone. So I'm very blessed, I'm very grateful, although I wouldn't want to have to do it all again.
We did, we're doing a little bit different. Oh, but anyway.
So points for you.
So for me, where did it all start? So I've been spiritual from a very young age. I wouldn't say that's where my awakening started. I would probably say my awakening started a good 15 years ago. And when we begin an awakening, it's not an awakening that brings bliss. Like Sue was just saying, an awakening generally starts through darker moments of our life. Well, it did for me personally anyway. So for me, I've suffered with a chronic pain condition for over half my life. So for 25 years, I've suffered with chronic pain, but we can go into that in another episode. But so for me, it was a journey of finding alternative ways in which to heal myself, and my awakening came through massively with the beginning of that journey. So I would say my awakening started, my proper true awakening, about 15 years ago. But yet again, what is the awakening? Is that the start of our spirituality? Is that the start of the full awakening? I think for me personally, there's the awakening of your spirituality, and then there's the true awakening. Does that make sense to you? That's how I personally feel with the word awakening. So
and awakenings can be spontaneous, or they can be initiated typically through having traumatic events.
Yes.
That can incur it, because that is the channel in to the work that needs doing in order to awaken, which is actually elevating our consciousness, which means that we're more aware, we have a broader perspective and understanding of everything that's going on, rather than maybe a more narrow or linear view. So we're coming up through the vibrations of the dimensions where we become all seeing, all knowing, and we all have that in us. And this journey with the chaos of the world is actually initiating global awakening. It is. Even when people don't recognise it, we are all actually waking up.
Collectively. Yeah, absolutely. Collectively. I totally agree with that completely. But yeah, absolutely. For me as well, like my awakening, really kind of really started coming in when I was going through some deep shadow work. And like you said, Sue, generally spiritual people, they have a lot of trauma and quite a lot of suffering along the way, which, I've suffered a lot with a lot of traumatic events myself as well. So, it is through those traumatic events where, we kind of like get dragged through our shadow in a sense, don't we? And then we come into this awakening. So, it's that's kind of like where I'm sitting. Yeah.
And the gift of the shadow is that you remove yourself from being who you're not. So the shadow is all the parts we don't want to look at, the bits that are uncomfortable. But if we don't address those parts of us, do the deep inner healing, we cannot realise our full capacity to be our genuine, authentic self and get on our soul path that so many people want to get onto, and they're not sure how. It's how to remove those blocks, which we can help you with on another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say you've always been spiritually connected, and have you always been spiritual?
I would say I have. Only looking back now and over the years, I wasn't always aware that that's what it was. There's been times where there's been peaks of spirituality, and there's been lulls where sometimes my antennae slightly cut off because I need to have more of the human experience. That's not done to me, that's been done for me. There's been times where I've been absolutely in the trenches of spirituality, where even when I'd like to have a normal human experience, there's no choice. I've got all the six senses coming on, all singing and dancing permanently, even in my sleep if I'm not paying attention, to get me to work through the shadow paths. So different paths have different paths, and shadow work is where a lot of us healers have to go.
100%.
So I would say yes, and I'm trying to have a more human path at times. I'm trying to do the more human things, which would be away from a lot of spiritual practices and ways of being. It didn't work for me. That's my guide's way of bringing me back into alignment. And there's been times where I've chosen that I don't want to be so spiritual, but this was part of releasing my ego and the shadow work of me actually resisting who I truly am. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I always feel that I have always been very spiritual, even from a young age. And I wasn't from a spiritual background. That gets covered in another podcast, but I've always kind of been connected to spirit and to source, and and if anything, I've kind of always lived more in my spiritual aspect than I have my human self. And for me, I've also had to learn of that balance between our human self and our spiritual self, because although we are spiritual beings, like I said, we are having that human experience. So sometimes we have to, it has to be about that human experience as well. So where I've tried healing through different aspects of spirituality, my guides really kind of brought back in that you are having this human experience, and it's not all about healing through our spirituality. It is also healing through our bodies, our experiences that we're here and that we are, that are a part of our journey. So it's about learning the teachings of our lessons in the human self as well as the spiritual self. But the mind, body and soul is one thing. It's not separate. So our human self is part of our spirituality, vice versa. That's how I see it.
I think beautifully put. And I think in reality these days, a lot of us are bypassing things and desperate to be spiritual and leave the human behind.
Yeah.
But we're missing a point there, because actually spirituality means little if we cannot ground it down into the earthbound human experience. To be honest, I used to spend so much time up there thinking this was quite clever, and I hadn't mastered the fact that I was actually missing a point. I am actually in a human body.
I exactly had that as well, 100%. Definitely. So how do you stay connected to your spirituality?
Well, that's a curious thing, because I have found that some of the deepest, most spiritual people I've ever met, you would never know from the outside, are spiritual. So there's a lot of perceptions of what spirituality is, and it's very much an inner job. So I'm very passionate about yoga, and I'm deeply passionate about nature, and in that silence and stillness of both, I go so deep. But I find that even when I'm driving, I'm having conversations conversations with guides, and just before I fall asleep, when it's quiet and there's nobody around, I can have those moments.
It's a great time, isn't it?
Fantastic.
That's a brilliant time to really connect.
And we can do it anywhere at any time. But for me personally, those are my big ones. There are other various things. I love training, studying, working with people spiritually. Even when I'm working with my clients, I find that they bring just as much to me as I bring to them. And it's an honour, and it's a beautiful thing. And sharing with like-minded people. And so how about you, Jules?
Yeah, so for me, I stay connected. So I'm a meditation teacher. So, I write hundreds of meditations. And my meditations, they're not just your average meditations. They are deep journeys of spirituality, of connection. For me, my first port of call is meditation and also breath work. I connect with spirit through my breath, through nature, through sound healing, you name it, I can connect to spirit in however way it presents itself. I can connect to spirit just like you say, walking through nature, connecting through the elements, connecting through the seasons. I truly do connect in many, many ways, which is why I'm always connecting. So it is about, sometimes we have to make sure then that we ground ourselves also, because otherwise I'm forever up there. I need to ground myself back down to the earth. But I connect through spirit, through prayer, through meditation, through conversations. Like Sue and I, we have some awesome convos, like literally, and this is why we want to bring this to you guys, because we've got a lot of shared experiences between us. So we're really excited to bring that through for you.
We really are. And so how about where do you think your spiritual journey is going? Where do you think you're going to land up?
Who knows? I mean, I started off on my personal journey, and it's actually taken a few different avenues. So you start off thinking like this is your calling, and then you get veered off somewhere slightly different, and then you might get veered back off a journey, back into a journey. I think with any journey, whether it's our human journey, our spiritual journey, it's not linear, it's not a straight line, it's a spiral. So you're constantly on a journey of healing, spirituality. While we're on this human experience, we will never stop healing. So our journey, because that is a part of spirituality. It's healing, it's learning, it's becoming to our true authentic self. My calling even 6 months ago was slightly different to what it is now. So the answer to that question, where is my journey leading me? I don't know, but one thing I do know is leading me always back to source, the divine creator, which we go into that in another podcast as well. But to honestly answer that, where is my journey going? I have complete trust and faith in the divine source. So I just serve the divine. So what with you?
It doesn't get better than that, does it? So I always been impatient, have always been looking up ahead. Where's the next project? Where's the next thing? And I've always had far too many things tucked up my sleeve. I'm very, very, very blessed to have so many passions, and they do say that your soul journey is very deeply linked with your passions. So how was I meant to narrow this down? Well, heeding the warning of my intuition. When you open up to your senses and you trust that the nudges that you're getting to be in the right place at the right time for the right opportunity to present, when you follow those hunches without the mind coming in and getting in the way, you will get where you need to go. So I used to find that I'd get deeply passionate about something, and I'd see it through, and I'd train, and I'd study, and I'd work at, and I'd sacrifice, and blah blah blah, to get somewhere on some particular journey that I could deeply was my calling. And then my guides would come in and go, right, that's enough now, that was just a stepping stone after years of training of this or that. So I used to be like, really? And I'd feel some disappointment, because I think I've just put everything into that, I've just got where I need to go, and you're saying that's not it, it's now the next bit. But I've learned to be a bit wiser than that bit now. I don't try to look too far ahead. I just let my feeling senses guide me, and there is always the next step there ahead. There's the next expansion. There's the next reward for hard work, and that's what I love. We do get rewarded on our spiritual journey. The deeper we go in ourselves, and the more we can surrender to our intuition rather than the mind holding us back, the more those doors will open ahead of you. And so, where is my spiritual journey going? Up and onwards.
Yeah.
And I believe that's all I need to know for now. I got hunches that something different was coming when Jules and I started working together. I got the hunches just before. I followed that intuitive lead, and here we are. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the journey is also inward as well. It's what we're experiencing inward. Because for me, it's inwards and upwards, literally, and downwards if we're grounded as well. It's just that spiral of becoming, isn't it? You know, it's pretty awesome when we trust the path. But a little bit like yourself, Sue, you know, I felt that same, because like, you know, I jumped from, you know, my energy healing. I did like a 2-year energy healing course, and then, you know, and then I felt that, you know, my shamanic path called me, then the hypnotherapy called, or that was one of my latter ones, but, you know, the spiritual life coaching called me, the mind and body somatic called me, you know. But what I tend to do now is I weave each energies of each one into my sessions. So, you know, it's not like it's been a waste of time doing one or the other, because this is what becomes a part of us. So I think it's amazing. I've got a bit of a spiritual addiction. I know you probably have as well. I've got book addiction as well. But then there are worse addictions out there, which I've experienced too, but we'll go into that in another podcast. Anyway, but there we are. So, did your family and your upbringing shape your spirituality? Did you get pushed into it a little bit? How did that work?
That's a very interesting thing. I had to make some choices at a young age, and those choices were myself or my family unit, who not all but most have very different ideas about the nature of this world and who we are. And it took me a long time, but I finally committed to myself on my journey, which meant that, you know, I had to go through a lot of inner pilgrimage of what that would mean, because my upbringing, for some of it, did not support a spiritual path at all. And there was a lot of work I needed to do on me for that, and that started at a young age. So I actually learned to hide my spirituality for the most part, tried to shut it down, pretend it wasn't happening, and then I lost my authenticity, my congruence, because what I was showing on the outside was a million miles from what I was showing on the inside, and then it created an extremely rageful teenager. So and some. So I would say that there is a lot that my upbringing would have shaped my spiritual beliefs, and I don't believe it's all negative. I don't think I've worked it all out yet, but I think there was a very spiritual journey in what it is to feel like the black sheep of the family. But I also, my mother is deeply spiritual, but we didn't always have the best of relationship growing up. I mean, I don't blame her. I don't think I was easy, but to kind of very, very long story short, she was my biggest advocate in the end, and that was enough for me to be able to, you know, go, it's okay, I can be me. But that was the key. So how did my childhood and my family shape my journey? They gave me the opportunity to lose myself or become myself. But I had to lose myself first for a very long time in order to grow myself into who I am.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Well, for me, so I was very fortunate actually to have a good foundation. You know, I come from a very loving background. However, they weren't particularly spiritual in any way. So I always felt, I say, a little bit of the odd one out, because, you know, for me, I was very spiritual, you know, and it was quite obvious as well from a younger age as well. And you know, and I think as well with like the older generation, like for me personally, you know, it's you know, it was quite structured from the background where I came from, you know. So like you know, there was your Christian faith. There was not that I, you know, my family didn't really believe in a particular religion, but I think if anything, it was more like the Christianity kind of believing in God, Jesus, that type of thing, and you know, but there was never open conversations of spirituality or anything like that. So I have no idea where my spirituality came from, to be honest with you. I feel like, you know, I was born on this earth plane, and I was here to just, you know, really pick up some spiritual, my spiritual journey, perhaps from my previous incarnation. I'm not really sure, but what my childhood and my family upbringing did for me is it did create a good foundation. I mean, even with you know, when we say loving childhoods, or there's still particular traumas and aspects that you go through, which I won't go too deep into that now, but you know, you are still having certain traumas, even from relatively good upbringings, you know. But for me, it made me feel quite different. I always felt a little bit odd in that way, you know. I got branded a bit weird, which I am weird, and I embrace that now. I love the word weird. You know, I've been called that many times, but I love being weird. I embrace that. I think it's a compliment, absolutely. So yeah, I think like where I have kind of had that foundation, you know, I was always an empathist. So, you know, you usually find that, you know, empathy comes in at some point with your spirituality. You know, you get some empaths that, you know, it's that divine connection for me, you know, of like serving others, and this is where you've got to kind of find a balance, isn't it, of like holding space, being held, giving, receiving, resting, kind of like forward motion. It's all about balance, but spiritual boundaries, yeah. So but for me, I feel that my relationship with my family, you know, it does shape us, you know, even if it's like conditioned behaviours, and then we have to re-educate ourselves, and but that's all part of the awakening of who we then become. It's a part of our becoming, isn't it? So,
and it's shedding those learning beliefs, conditioned beliefs. You strip them back one by one, and then you arise. It's not that you've necessarily become a new person. You've become the original version that you always were here to be.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like we're thrown onto this earth to learn all our conditioning, and then to go back the other way, have to unlearn everything you've been taught. And that is, somebody once said to me, and I never understood it at the time, said, "Sue, can you fly through the eye of a needle and leave everything behind?" And at the time I was like, hell no. And I'm so much closer to doing that now. Still some journey ahead, and that's okay. But it is out letting go of everything. And as humans, we struggle to let go. Technically, we could do it in a second if we're willing to. There's lots of blocks to doing that, but once we let go, we just emerge, and it's effortless. So people often think working through their stuff is hard. Of course it's hard, but a flip side to it, when you're working from soul, it becomes such a easy passage of time, less resistance.
Yeah, I think, you know, once we start working with our higher selves and dropping the ego self, and, you know, really start coming into your authentic version of you, is how I put it. You know, when you are working with that authenticity, it does become easier. You know, it's always going to be, you know, there's going to be confrontations. There's always aspects of different journeys, but you know, you do become more free, don't you? You are able to make decisions with clarity, not confusion. You know, you're making decisions on like love, not fear, or you know, you're linking more with kind of like a higher self perspective. So I think that really does help when it's making sense of where this suffering comes from, isn't it? Because, you know, when we're going through this this kind of dark night of the soul. It's, you know, it is quite kind of tough, isn't it? So would you say you've had a dark night of the soul?
A fair few. I would say I've had approximately four or five, probably more likely four. And for the majority of those, I didn't know what was happening. And they lasted years. And it's the deepest pain, to the point of physical pain. Yet I've always been very functional, so on the outside it wouldn't be obvious other than to those that are very close to me. And I would go to the abyss of sadness. Grief is the biggest one for me. Grief, to the point where it would literally reframe everything eventually, but it would push me to the point where I'd often feel I couldn't go on. And things would feel so bleak, but the grief in my heart would be unbearable. Even if the lifestyle I was living was in keeping with who I needed to be or where I was going, it's deep and it's slow, it's laborious, and there is no quick way through other than through. And you have to feel it to heal it. That's my favourite saying. You've got to feel it to heal it.
And one favourite saying, feel it, heal it, to let it go.
Exactly, absolutely. Yeah. And really, there is something beautiful about suffering, as long as it doesn't get so addictive you stay there for too long, which could be a thing. But deep suffering is the caveat to that is that you literally become alive again. So it's metamorphosis, transformation, which is a huge part of my work. Transformation from something there to something there, and allowing yourself through that metamorphosis, like the journey of a butterfly. We can't control our dark nights of the soul. They're going to happen or they're not going to happen. They can be spontaneous or they can be triggered from deep loss or pain or whatever it might be. But if you work it well, which it's like being a warrior, if you work it well,
energy,
you will come out the other end and you'll be so grateful that you went through that hellhole for however many years. If we get stuck in it and we don't know how to pull ourselves out, we can come out the other end naturally and not feel that gratitude. So gratitude is a very, very high vibration. And you know, when we let go of suffering through our pilgrimages, when we let go of suffering, we are then free, because we are only suffering if we're still attached to something. And the attachment is of whatever painful experience we've had, and then the emotion we attach to that experience. That's where we get stuck, because often we're stuck with trauma and in dark nights of souls of things that have happened a long time ago, even past lives.
Absolutely.
Typically past lives. And what happens is we affix to it and then we're stuck in it. So that dark night of the soul is going to be as long as it's going to be, but at the same time you can accelerate it, not in an unhealthy way of I just want to get this over and done with and spiritually bypass it, but you can accelerate it to do the healing, let go, because it's where we're holding on that we're stuck.
It is, it's holding on to those emotional attachments, isn't it, at the end of the day? And it's just learning ways in which to detach from our traumas. You know, for me it was you know, because I've gone through a couple, but you know, one was very, very dark, and you know, in that moment you know, it pulled me even closer to my spirituality. But in some cases, when we go through dark nights of the soul, it can actually detach you from your spirituality. You know, and I've seen that in many clients where you know, you lose all faith and you literally hit rock bottom, and you know, and you feel that there's no one there to help you, and you know, and it is a very lonely and dark journey, and you know, and there is a lot of pain and suffering, but I feel that everything serves a purpose. And for me personally, you know, it's you know, that for me, I suppose that's when I was in the deep mists of awakening. But I always say that, you know, in those dark moments when we're, you know, when we're really hurting, that's the broken bits is where the light gets in, and that's when we can really then start kind of using those lessons and those teachings to heal ourselves. And I suppose ultimately it's, you know, for me, my journey's been about healing myself in order to be able to help others how to heal themselves. You're the only person that can heal yourself. We can be here to guide you. We can be here to hold space for people, but ultimately it's something that we have to do for ourselves, isn't it? You know? But yeah, it's when we come out the other side of that, you do look back then, believe it or not, with some form of gratitude, don't
Absolutely.
you? Because it's there is a reason or a lesson behind everything. That could be calling you back to valuing yourself, your own self-worth. There's always an opposite of what you're experiencing, and this is what shapes our path at the end of the day. So if we didn't have these elements of trauma or suffering, or dark nights of the soul, then ultimately it is a part of our becoming, isn't it? It really is. And this is where when we're linking in with our human self, or that three-dimensional energy, when we are stuck in that fear, the anxieties, the depressions, it's really difficult to see beyond that. But there is another side to it, and there is a side of becoming. And when we kind of like reach over that bridge, we are then able to release the emotional attachments that it holds over us, and it just helps us evolve further, and it really brings us back into true, authentic versions of ourselves and who we're becoming. I really do believe that.
I think so, because there are rewards to hard work done, and it's a labour of love to yourself to work hard through that passage. And it's very common as well for your belief in spirituality to be tested. That is not wrong. That is part of spiritual initiation. Because you think, well, if there was really a universe up there looking after me, surely you wouldn't let me go through this. But they're doing it with love, and it's sometimes we can lose sight of that, and it's a normal passage of time. But when we do evolve out the other side, we can see that it was worth every moment, but it won't feel like that at the time. And I think that we will all touch on these deep passages of time, and that's okay. But sometimes people get lost in it, or they feel very alone with it. So that's partly why we're doing these podcasts, so people can hear that they are not alone on their journey, which really makes me think, if you were to give your former self, Jules, some advice about what you were going through back then, knowing where you are now, what advice would you give to your former self?
I think I would give myself the advice to love myself how much that I love others. I think, and to be more compassionate, to just give myself some more space and more time. I would put myself first. I would tell myself to put yourself first, your self-worth first, and it's a bit like, you can't pour from an empty cup, can you? So but ultimately for me it would be to bring in more compassion. Compassion to me is one of the biggest healers. We can really work with compassion. When we go into like inner child work, wounded child work, these are aspects of probably what I would say to myself, linking back to my inner child. But ultimately it would be to pour all that love into myself that I have so freely given to others. What about yourself?
I think I'd tell my former self, probably going back as far as about 8 years old, it's okay to trust what you know, trust what you believe, and you don't have to be somebody you're not in order to fit in, or to be a part of, or to be accepted or loved or valued. That would have been impossible to have been able to have trusted that back then. But little did I know the work started back then. And I think I would say to understand that there is a bigger thing at play, and to learn how to let go quicker. Drag that one out forever and a day. And it's okay to be my true spirituality. Not be so fearful of what others think, and follow my path. I mean, we all have regret. If I'd done that sooner, I'd be sitting here 20 years ago, but that wasn't meant to be. So letting go of regret, letting go of human frailties, and knowing that to to be the best you can be, you have to reach your pain threshold. You have to push through that pain barrier. You have to go through the pain barrier so you can emerge out the other side. You know, really, I think my biggest advice to myself is stop wasting time.
I think for me as well, like I've always been, even from a child, the healer. You know, I definitely, you know, was born on this earth plane to be the healer, but also it's about, you know, serving yourself, isn't it? And you know, I would tell myself to put yourself first. That's what I would say to myself. Put yourself first.
That's quite a key journey for everybody in spirituality, is how to love yourself enough to put yourself first.
That's right.
So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today.
What an amazing podcast! Yeah,
I could have got another cuppa.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, if you enjoyed what our content is, please subscribe, follow us on our channel.
Appreciate that, and we are here, and we will see you again for episode 3.
Yes. Bye. Take it easy.
Love and light.